one of the things I love about taking some time off, it always gives me the ability to think. And also being around family increases that at a high level because you kind of begin to realize the whole reason why you're trying to get something accomplished. Some people have different reasons. My family reasons are extremely strong, and that's really what I kind of base 100% of my thought process on. I realize that there's a lot that I've done for myself already that I'm completely satisfied, and obviously could be satisfied even at a larger level, but anything else beyond me right now is tied to legacy. Good morning, Mr. Upton. I hope you're doing well. Um, and so today I want to share with you guys some things that I think are going to be helpful because obviously we're now in a new season. If this is the first time that you've connected with our Infinite Company and you're kind of going through your first season, one of the things that you guys are going to quickly realize is that this July to next July matters. It's a really a matter from a business standpoint, but OIC, it's also an opportunity for you guys to reflect on your ability to leverage milestones to see how things are progressing for you. But I've also been able to really kind of contextualize a lot of things that I think about personally are tied to 100% business. And a lot of times, because my brain is business driven, I look at everything also from that lens too. So there's three lenses that I'm always looking from just to share with you guys this morning, kind of from a sincere standpoint, just to really be able to help as many people as possible begin to understand what we're really doing here, on top of what we got graced with. What that means is that when I arrived here at our Infinite Company, I had some things in place that I really enjoyed. I believe if I didn't run into OIC, I'd be fine financially, but I don't think I would have been fine from a legacy standpoint. And maybe I would have been redirected, but into something else that would have allowed me to leverage my time. And I believe most of the things that I've built in the past were built on the idea that I was leveraging my time and my talent to do something productive. But I don't know if I ran into my actual legacy play. I don't know if I understood that I had access to that because I think it's something I thought about as a young child. If you met me at 13, I've probably been talking about $1 million since then. I don't know where I got the vision and the concept from. Honestly, I don't know what exactly I got exposed, but I realized along the journey for myself, and maybe for you guys can identify that along the journey, you'll find these markers of things that you get exposed to that says, oh, that's a possibility. Last night in our call we were doing in our breakout room, I was sharing at the very end that it's okay to be successful. One of the things that I want to share with you guys is a little bit of information of why I believe it's okay for you to be successful. And sometimes it might be very clear for a lot of people, and other times they might feel based on some of their past experiences or their exposures, why that might be true and may not be true. And there's something called in America called comfort, and America sells it at a high level. It's like, hey, get you a brand new car, get you a new furniture sofa, get you a big TV, 70-inch one if you can, or bigger than that, or get you a projector. So those are all comfort things that really end up working out once you've built out the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. And I love construction and I love real estate. And a lot of times you'll see me reflect from that standpoint because somebody who's building a property is going to say, hey, let me put the plans in place. They're going to get an architect. They're going to say, I want a basement. They want 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, whatever it is that they desire in their architectural plan, they'll put it in place. But once you actually have an architectural plan, that's just really the plan. But the way for you to actually put it in place is that you literally now got to construct the vision. The benefit that we actually guys have this morning is that by the time you guys come out of convention this season, you're going to find out that there was several people who made a decision 8 years ago for people like yourself and me to show up in a room and says, hey, we've built the architectural plan to what we desire. And then at a high level, they've actually proved that the plan actually literally works. Meaning that whether it's developing a relationship within your natural market, the wealth checkup is a proof that that is something that's been in place here at OIC. if you got introduced to learning how to leverage school systems like I did, that means the ERG system does work. The only difference between how it works for you or how it works from a small business standpoint or whatever the market that you end up deciding to serve. Some people say, hey, Hans, I really, really love to just do annuities and they leverage rolling over funds and they target those things. Some people love life insurance, like the Million Dollar Baby program, which is great. The only difference is that those are all marketing solutions. But if you're going to build something, there's something that you have to make a decision for yourself about what's my plan. And what we got to benefit from is one of the reasons why I'm excited about convention. My wife and I were just talking about it. We're like, hey, we're about to, pack the bags, reorganize, make sure everything is clean, because we really are intentional about the architectural plan for our family. And so I want to share something with you guys um, that I want you to be like yesterday. Mr. Samad's call in the breakout room was excellent because one of the things that he helped all of us do was say, hey, like ask yourself, the reasons why you're here and ask yourself, what are you trying to accomplish? And then I think we just kind of all got to a place that you say, hey, there's a purpose behind my vision. There's a purpose behind what I'm trying to get accomplished and what I'm seeking to actually happen. And one of the reasons why I want for many of you guys who are going to be at convention, who's made a decision to be at convention, and I want you to be very intentional about how the plan looks like for you. And so when you get to this convention, my recommendation is that my personal recommendations, I'm really there on a mission to begin to identify with the next stage of my transition. And the reason why that's very important for you is because if you showed up here, whether it's 6 months ago, 30 days ago, a year, or 2 years ago, like myself, there's a reason why you arrived at this place in your life. Now, the only thing that you have to do, Miss Betty or Miss Kimberly Howard or Miss Marilyn, if you guys have the ability to share your screens, don't be afraid to. I'd like to see as many pretty faces as possible. Miss Amanda, Miss Tammy, Miss Beck, you arrived here at this place primarily because there's something in you that you're trying to get accomplished. And you're trying to figure out how does the plan look like for you? What exactly are you going to do to make things different? So I really want you guys, I'm very intentional this morning. I'm probably going to try to bring my energy down to a very calm pace because one of the things that I was able to do when during my trip is think. And when I think deeper with the intent to like, what's the next step, right? What that means is that when you guys are, if you're coming to convention, let me see if I got this correct. Let me know if you guys can see my screen there. Mr. Barbatude, can you see my screen, sir? Let me just give me a quick checkup. Can you see? Can you guys see it says formula right in front of us?
Yes, we see it.
All right, perfect, perfect. So, Miss Marlena, how are you doing today? Good to see you. Good to hear from you.
Good
Um,
morning. Good morning.
so my during the time that I get a chance to think, I'm thinking about plans ahead. And I want you guys to really sit down with yourself and say, what's your business plan for the next 12 months? This, when you walk into convention, part of what convention will help you do is boost your thought process to understand that not only is your plan possible, but then you get a chance to see the evidence in other people that the plan is either working or has worked or continues to work because everybody's at a different level. See, where I am at today is nowhere near where Anthony Rubio or Mary Grace is at because they've done some things to get to the place that they've arrived here today. And so for you, if you're brand new, like we've been sharing pretty consistently, there is no comparison. The only comparison that you're going to have is what is it that you want to accomplish? And if you begin to understand what you want to accomplish and you can identify with the mission, vision, and purpose that's built within the OIC infrastructure, you're going to be great. Because now greatness attracts more greater people and it attracts great people that were good at something, or it'll attract great people that weren't so great at it, but they can figure it out because what we're trying to do here is we're literally actually building a business. And a business is very different than the day-to-day functions that you might be used to in your work environment. And I want you to be okay with that too. Your work environment is for a purpose. It helps fund your business today. It helps position your family. Fine. But while you're building your business, you get a chance to move through the formula of life so that you can get into a better position for you. And one of the reasons why I want people to recognize this because I realize that whenever I sit down and I have a conversation with myself, what I'm realizing is that I get a chance to be part of an organization of individuals that have a formula, and every day they place it right in front of you. And what that means is that it may not look like the way you want it to look like, but guess what? A blessing never really looks like the way you want it to be. Sometimes it may come out exactly the way you've dreamed and envisioned, but a blessing shows up with the purpose to make you better, basically. And one of the things that I want you guys to write down, right? I don't get too biblical, but I'm going to use a reference from a book that I read every morning. You could choose to read it. So this is a mastermind call, but I happen to leverage my mind with a book called the Bible. And if you're interested in reading the Bible, you can. I think it's a very great book to really position. But one of the things that it says in one of the books called Genesis chapter 1, it says, be fruitful, which is one of the things that I read heavily for the last 6 months. So a lot of my framework for the last 6 months has been built in this concept. But I'm going to apply this formula conceptually to a business because the way that I leverage business is through this level of understanding, and it all applies because wisdom and information is what we actually give access to people. What that means is that we're literally in a financial literacy based business, and part of our financial literacy based business will allow us to serve many people. And ultimately, when we serve them with a financial solution in the form of a life insurance policy, in the form of an annuity, in the form of different basically life insurance programs that you, because you're licensed, can give to multiple people. But one of the ways that we have to do it, we have to actually do it right. And I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, but what I learned was that I'm now understanding how to do it right here. This is always me speaking about myself, trying to help others understand that there's a way for you to dominate. Because the formula says, Mr. Babintude, if you get this, or Miss Tammy, if you get this, or Miss Beck, I need you to be fruitful first, which is what really a training associate is. A training associate is a person who shows up in a room saying, how do I become fruitful in this particular space? And then if you understand our business model is built in the concept of, hey, how do I help 3 additional people that can now position themselves financially to win also? That's the multiplication part. But there's one more part of the formula that you have to become part of in order for you to, I think, win at the highest level. It's not because you became a business director. It's not because you became an equity partner. It's because those are just milestones towards your domination. Those are evidence that what you are trying to get accomplished is starting to work out in your favor but there's an order to this though. That's one of the things that I had to speak to myself also to this weekend. There's an order, and here's the order. And you need to, maybe if you believe in this concept, I want you to figure out how to apply this to your business. Which means that if you show up here as a potential agent or a financial professional or a financial educator, essentially what you're doing is you're principally saying that you believe in the information that you're sharing is valuable to people, number one. Because you really can't say financial literacy unless you're just playing the game of, I just want to leverage it just so I can make money. Now, what's interesting is if you do it this way, you'll make money. If you do it the other way, you'll make money. But I believe that if you do it this way first, you'll make more money than you understand is possible at this moment. But I want you to start from the first place. The first place is that, yes, sometimes we talk about the possibilities of how much we want to make, but I need you to ask yourself a question. What is it that you're trying to get accomplished? Because about 2 weeks from now, many of you guys are going to walk into a room and you're going to get evidence of what domination looks like. You're going to get a version of domination, which means that there's some people in that same room who've already gone through the multiplication season and they've learned how to dominate themselves because they had to become fruitful first, which means that they were literally producing a result. And if you understand this principle, if you live in this principle, which is, hey, how do I take care of things for myself first? How do I create a level of results for myself first so that you know that the evidence of how this business could work. See, it was no different in any other business that I've ever been in. It's never been different. Well, hey, if you open up a laundromat, essentially what you're saying is I pray that I'm fruitful enough in the business that I'm in to have enough customers coming in consistently. If I open up a real estate location, it's no different. Hey, my real estate location has to be organized and prepared, but there are periods of experiences that you're going to have to go through, and that's is going to position you. Because once you learn how to take care of the things that are first, saying, hey, now I want you to contextualize this to whatever system you're going to run. Some of you guys here love the natural market and absolutely are crushing it, really are opening up doors for yourself, but you really can't change the formula of whether it's a natural market. You can't change the formula if it's an education market. You can't change the formula of a small business. Why? Because all of these individual markets have people tied to it. So if you wanted to pursue 8 churches a day, if you wanted to pursue 8 daycares a day, if you were a physical therapist and that's your career and you wanted to chase 8 physical therapists, they're all tied to people. And the reason why this becomes important is because the formula for progression says, let me make sure that I know what I'm doing well enough so that when I now position others, I can help them multiply the same level of results. But here's the benefit that we have here at OIC. Because we work as a team organization, the domination comes just as early as multiplication and just as fruitfulness. The only thing that you have to do now is you got to plug and play the same playbook, which means that there is something important that you have to do in this formula. You have to make a decision how you're going to show up. Now, this is not a judgment, but you personally have to make a decision. Am I going to serve my natural market? Am I going to go out and talk to my friends and family and I'm going to do well with it? And being fruitful in that space means that what is it that I need to understand? Now, in our case, the reason why we leverage a grand opening is because what we're saying is that if you get very familiar with leveraging the wealth formula, which is the presentation that we make in that space, now you got great information that you could share with anybody. You could share it with the school system. You could share it with the small business owner. You could share it with anybody. But there's something in you that has to be okay in saying, I got to develop the fruit of understanding. And through the fruit of understanding, I'm now going to develop a result. A result means that I've presented to somebody, I've offered them a solution, I've educated them, and I've walked them through this process. Because in order for you to dominate, which is mean that it says to have dominion, it says master the assignment by leading through service. Multiplication says plant what works and develop more people. But in order for you to be able to develop more people and to master your assignment, you have to make the very, very first step. The very first step says that, hey, let me become fruitful in understanding how this works. Now, here's some recommendations that I believe has worked for me and worked for many others. My recommendation is that if you want to be fruitful in this business, you have to understand it. That means, you know what? It's no longer just what happens on this call. It also means, how do I understand what's happening in the back office? How do I understand what's happening with these carrier relationships that we have? What are the situations that I can place myself in so that I have a clarity on how this works? Because I got to live in this principle of producing results. Now, along the way, what we've done in our organizational system of our infinite company is that there are Spark calls, there are TNT calls, there are our mastermind calls, there are Supreme Team organizational calls. and you master the calendar of information so that you can be fruitful with understanding first so that you can create multiplication and have dominion. Now let's go in a little bit deeper, right? Stay with me so far, right? It says the reason why you're going to produce and build personal results, it's because now other people can trust you with that ability. People show up on an appointment with me not because I'm good looking. I wish I was. But they show up because maybe there's an opinion of the opportunity for me to potentially produce a result. But the only way that I could potentially do that is that I had to build something in me that understands how this works. And then here's what it is when it comes to fruitful means that you got to learn how to practice. I'm constantly like, if my kids all played sports and I coached some of them at a pretty decent level. And one of the things that I learned about the ability for you to become part of the practice environment, which means that I was looking at the beautiful Excel sheet that Miss Marlena created or that team created. If you look at that sheet says, hey, this is you. Here's what you've been able to create so far. You've participated in the idea of some of these classes. You've gotten yourself licensed because the first level of result for you guys that needed to be produced was the ability to obtain a license. Now, once you have the license, the game is not done yet. Now you got to practice the art of providing life insurance solutions. Now you got to practice the art of developing how to understand a financial needs analysis. Now you got to practice the art of presenting good information. And so that way, at the end of the day, ultimately, if you are producing some personal results that other people can trust, if you're practicing, that means you're living the principles before you teach them. You will find there's one thing that I don't have in me. I can't teach what I don't do. I can't. That's like faking it. I tell people what I do teach, though, is I teach what I've been able to get accomplished either in this space or other spaces. And when I do not know well enough, I have no problem sitting under the tutelage. It says fruitfulness means producing value before expecting growth. Because you are learning here, you're practicing here, and then once you get to the point where you can serve others pretty consistently, let me see if I can move this around. It says bring answers with integrity and consistency, meaning that if you're really understanding that you're building a business here, if you literally understand that you're building a business and you're building a practice of serving people in financial solutions and financial education, you're going to develop a level of integrity and a level of consistency that's going to help you produce further results, because the further results is in the understanding that we have to plant great seeds here. As I planted seeds in this business, I realized that it gave me more opportunity. It says our seeds are practical solutions in financial education. It says the 3, 3, and 8 system, which is the wealth formula, leveraging life insurance solutions, leveraging retirement planning, and leveraging financial literacy is great here. Why? Let me give you guys a couple of real live examples. See, when you plant seeds, sometimes it takes time for it to grow. I got a phone call yesterday from somebody that I forgot I even did that deal. They was like, oh, the money got delivered. It was 2 months that I had to wait for that fund to be rolled over. And I had to practice the art of sitting down with that person, giving them education as to why my solution makes sense. And then I have to wait for my seed to grow. But if you put enough seeds out in the ground, which means that your seeds are starting a conversation, educating before selling, and serving everyone you have permission to, meaning that I can't force you into a conversation. But if you gave me permission and you showed up on the appointment, I no longer get permission from my clients to educate. If you show up, I mean, there was a lady that showed up the other day. She said, well, Hans, all I want is this. I said, that's great. I said, do me a favor. If I give you that, do you mind if I share some additional information? Would that be okay? Oh, once she said okay, I said, great. I'm going to answer your question. But did you know from a financial literacy standpoint that if you don't get a better understanding of your pension, this is the result that's going to happen. You're going to see a 50% deficiency in your income in the future. And by the way, because of the understanding that I've learned in the retirement planning game, I may have a solution that can help you. Does it mean she says yes? But you know what? I started that conversation. I started educating before I was selling. And so, as many seeds as you start to plant in this particular business, because it don't really matter what business you're in. See, some of the people that we believe that might be hitting home runs today, they're going to tell you they weren't hitting home runs. I was listening to a gentleman talk about, he said, listen, don't get mistaken with the amount of results that I've created today. It's because I had dropped so many seeds of misunderstanding, seeds of good understanding, seeds of I don't really know. He said, but once he started to understand what he knew, he just said, let me start conversations. Let me develop relationships. Let me position yourself. Here's why I want you guys to understand the reason why I'm sharing this morning. When you get to convention, you're going to see people seed you with solid information. But you actually literally got to plant that seed. Where do you plant that seed at? You plant that seed, Miss Amanda, you plant it in the education of another person. You plant it, Miss Princess, right? When you walk into schools and have educational conversations, Miss Princess planted a seed in the Arkansas church environment that she went to. What results are going to pop out of that? I don't know because I didn't have a conversation with her, but I'm almost sure something popped out of it. It says the reason why you want to become good at planting seeds is because you want to watch them grow. But here's the challenge that you're going to run into when you start to see grow means that if you took any plant and you put it in the ground, there's a level of time before that really starts to create some sign that it's working. Sometimes you get immediate results. You ever see like the next morning there was no weeds on the ground and you don't see a plant in the ground? I don't like to use weeds because weeds are not the greatest thing, but you all of a sudden they watered the grass and there was no grass there, but then there's this one little grass that pops out of nowhere. It says, I'm ready. And if you wait for a good time, all of a sudden, all the seeds that were once planted on in the area where they're going to grass it, it starts to turn green. It says once we understand what we're doing, then we get a chance to position ourselves for multiplication. Now, let me give you guys the last piece before I open up the call and pass it on. Here's the part that I had to really wrestle with. I'm going to share with you guys something personal. Don't talk about my business, but I'm going to tell you the truth anyway. I had to learn that I got to master this assignment. What that means, guys, is that in order for me to have dominion, I got to master the assignment. See, just because you hit business director, maybe even if you hit equity partner, even if you hit associate, that's just a milestone. If you want to dominate something, you now have to become the master of your assignment. What that means is that you do that through a level of service and excellence. It says dominion is not controlling people, it's about becoming so consistent. So what that means is that, okay, Hans, that's great that you have some organizational members, but I can't control these people. What I can do, though, is I can control myself. Now, I can teach fruitfulness. I can teach multiplication. I can even teach dominion. But dominion is not something I 100% have. So now I got to listen to other people who've been able to dominate a certain space in order for me to master my personal assignment. Because it says you become so consistent and so valuable and so disciplined that your influence actual grows. Now, what does that mean? Let me tell you guys why this is extremely, extremely important. Extremely important. The last 2 years has been an education of understanding how to position myself. Have I created results? Yes. That's a sign that there's fruit bearing when I walk into a school. I happen to leverage school districts. I can't tell you what you're going to master, but because this is what we do in this space, this is one of the places that I'm learning to become dominant in it. What that means is when I walk into a space, my future results will be when I walk into a space, I don't really even got a prospect. I've become so valuable to that system that some people were anticipating and waiting my arrival. But let me give you guys this thing before I don't want to get you guys too lost because I've learned if I give too much, it might overwhelm. So I just want you to first master fruitfulness first. Just master that first. And then once you master fruitfulness, multiplication will show up. And even multiplication, I still have to learn how to have dominion over that because I got to become an excellent equity partner. I got to become an excellent business director. If I actually have to, if I want to create a space for myself, this is my goals. If I want to create a space where there's a potential of 18 plus agency directors that are under my umbrella, that means I got to become so consistent, so valuable, so disciplined. But here's where I want you guys to start. Like today, I can't tell you that, but I'm doing something today. But I started it in a way today that I said, okay, if I could just master this day, just this day, then tomorrow will become easier. If I master it tomorrow, then Wednesday will become 10 times easier and I will have dominion over what I'm trying to accomplish. But you got to get started. It says in this, and I'm going to close with this. It says, bring answers. Don't sell anything. Bring answers. Become known as the trusted problem solver. The reason why I want you guys to think about that, when we show up at a grand opening, guys, we're never showing up as, hey, we're here to serve first, and we're going to give you answers. When I walk into a school, I do now, don't get fooled. I am the first person who will tell you that I didn't show up not to make money. Don't get lost in my conversations by assuming that I don't want to make money. But I've learned that I will end up making more if I understand how to become the answer first. The reason why you guys want to lead with education right now in this particular environment is as I've talked to some of my peers in other spaces, it's different. It's different because they don't have this language, they don't have this conversation. They have certain controlling factors, they have certain opinions, they have certain rough expectations that makes the process win in those environments, but that's not dominion. Because I'm not going to spend my life trying to control people, but what I will do is I will spend my life becoming consistent. Because here's what consistent and valuable, whether you produce the result, I can. But what I'm hoping for you to do is be able to become just as disciplined and consistent so that in your environments, in your market spaces, and within your family structures, you become the most valuable person. Now, here's why we speak this language here on this particular platform. Because we never expected you to show up with the intent for us to control you. We never positioned the conversation, Miss Princess, Miss Beck, Mr. Jones, we didn't position the conversation for us to control you. Mr. Upton, it wasn't built that way. It was built that, Miss Betty Hall, if you begin to understand the value that you are in the state of South Carolina, Mr. Upton, if you become the valuable person in your state of California, now it doesn't mean you're limited to California. It just means that if you learn how to become fruitful in that space first, then your ability to multiply to Vegas or your ability to multiply to Washington State, if you choose to, your ability to multiply yourself in other states becomes easier if you become dominant in the understanding. So, for example, Miss Tammy, right, as an example, she said, hey, I'm going to learn how to position myself in the understanding of develop a 3388 system. She's going to take as many educator appointments. She's going to walk into enough school. I guarantee you, if she sticks, if she becomes consistent, I guarantee it. When I say guarantee now, Miss Tammy has to guarantee it for herself. But the reason why I can guarantee it is because if she stays consistent and she becomes disciplined and she becomes valuable in the Atlanta school district, it may take her some time. That's the part that we got to get correct. It may take her some time But over the course of time, she will become one of the most valuable people within that environment as long as she chooses to stay, Miss Beck. Meaning that, Miss Beck, you actually have the possibilities. It's hard to see it now, and maybe you already do. There's nobody in Canada except for you. Now, that doesn't make it a bad thing. It makes it an actual absolutely great thing. What that means is that if you become consistent and you become valuable and you become disciplined in anything that you do, then the ability for you to multiply yourself in the state of Canada or any other US state that you choose to becomes very good. Now you have dominion not only over the principles that you understand, but dominion over the business that you're trying to establish. Guys, I could turn into a preacher, but I won't. I got to pass the call to other leaders. The other day, we were in a space where we saw 20 acres. And in that space, we understood that there was the ability to build. And we understood the possibilities. Like, oh, that would be great over here. That would be great there. But the only way that that place will ever get built is if you position yourself in a valuable way, you become disciplined and consistent about what you're trying to get accomplished, and then it gets built. But you have to be able to see the vision of possibilities. So I don't even urge you. I highly recommend that if you're going to convention this season, ask yourself the questions. How am I going to be fruitful? How am I going to position my business to multiply? These are true principles that I know absolutely work. The person that I got it from has never broken a promise. The only time the promise is broken is when you, the person, decide not to show up at the place that result is available to you so that you can learn how to position yourself. But you got to respect time. You can't, sometimes things will happen in 30 days, but in order for you to really build business, most people says if you're not in the game for at least 5 years, you may not actually have a business. What you will, though, be able to do is create certain level of results. But if you're here to build a business, these are my recommendations this morning. So I want to pass the call over to our leader, Miss Princess Matt. I know she has some value she wants to
That was
add.
amazing, Hans. Thank you so much. You guys drop some ones in the chat. And I'm coming to go visit and look at them acres too, Mr. Hans, in your backyard. Yes, you know what? I'm gonna just piggyback, off of what Hans is speaking about because I feel this is the foundation, personally of what I had to deal with when I came, right? But I am sold out. I am completely sold out. Before you can become a BD, you must have unshakable faith, right? Before you plant any seeds, before you become consistent, before you show up, you have to believe. And all of you must believe in something because you signed up. So you're here. I used to go to those conventions to the other companies I work with, and I was like, oh shoot, look at them. They got Kevin Hart speaking. And they just want, they're just trying to, make more money from me. And it was like, duh, yeah, because if I make more money, they're gonna make more money, right? So I had to build my faith. I had to reach a level of greatness that I didn't know was even there before I even stepped in the room, before I talked to a teacher, before I talked to anyone. So I want to talk about fear over faith, the word, and I'm gonna get scriptural. I'm gonna get biblical. So excuse me, you can leave. I'm not like that, but I don't want to offend anyone. I am gonna speak some scriptures. So it's okay. Put your church hand up, church finger if you want to exit the room. Slide to the left. No, just kidding. Okay. All righty. So, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. We're going to talk about faith over fear, but He's given us the power, love, and a sound mind, right? All of you guys have a story, I'm sure, that you can talk about when it comes to fear. Every great story begins with that. Every hero, if you think about in the Bible, stood at the edge of an impossible situation before the miracle even arrived, right? And we're all heroes here. They didn't wait till fear disappeared, they moved through it. And I personally, coming in here knew when I came, it was so many things. I'm fearless in a lot of areas, but you get a little intimidated when you don't know much. So I think a lot of times when we signed up, this is something you got to face. False evidence appearing real. Noah, right? He built before a single drop of rain even showed up, right? Even fell to the ground. Moses walked before the sea even opened. Peter stepped before he walked on the water. Joshua marched before the walls came down. I personally can tell you an experience where I moved in faith and I didn't know what I was doing in something else that I was building. And it was like every time I stepped, God put a block under. He put a block under my foot, right? That I landed on and I kept going, right? Every miracle requires movement first. So you can't sit on the sideline and you can't put off. God needs you in the field. He needs you in the field, right? He needs you to tend the harvest that's coming. The seeds, like Mr. Hahn said. Fear is really just proof that you're moving in the right direction and you're on to something great. Don't listen to the voices that say, I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know enough people. I'm too old. What if they say no? I don't have the money. Like, with convention, I start when it's right. No, God, faith says he qualifies those he calls. Do you know that he is putting that flesh on the bones as you move? You were not handed this opportunity by accident. The calling came with equipping you, your network, your story, your voice. They're exactly the tools God intends to use. Every bit of it. Oh, every bit of it. Ooh, every bit of it. The families waiting for you don't need a perfect agent. They need a present one. Every agent has two voices. Inside every person called to greatness, two voices compete for the microphone. One is loud and one is louder. You choose which one gets to the stage. The voice of fear or the voice of faith. The fear voice says, what if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if I embarrass myself? What if no one believes in me? But what if God has already prepared the people before waiting for you to show up? That's what I've experienced in my life with my story. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like everything that I've gone through, he designed it to work in my favor. I just have to show up and I have to trust and believe that he's using every bit of it. What if this is exactly the moment why you were made, right? So we want the loudest voice to win, the voice of faith. You have to feed your faith. Coming to these meetings, for me personally, feeds my faith, right? Starve your fear. The voice you rehearse daily becomes the story you live. Your story, my story. Every leader who you admire, who I've heard so many great things about my counterparts who are, on the platform right now as the BDs from different agents. And I'd be like, yeah, amazing. She's amazing. He's amazing. I know them personally, right? And, every leader you admire, they had a chapter, they had a story. They almost didn't even survive, right? They can all tell you their personal stories. You're in that chapter and it belongs to all of us. There are days, that I question myself, days when the doubt was louder than the dream. There are days when I did want to quit, didn't know how I was going to, keep going. I'm trying to make a living and ain't no money happening. And I'm talking to people and ain't nothing going on. But I stayed. Days when invisible felt permanent, like ain't nothing going on. And how can I do this? And go get a job. This is not working. But I have a job. God placed me here. I have a job. But I kept showing up, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but just with God's faith, knowing that he placed me here. And that was enough. I couldn't understand it And I'm talking even before I got to OIC, I was in a situation with another company and I wasn't getting paid, my story. And he made me sit there. And I'm like, I would win trips, be in the rooms with millionaires, and here I am thinking I'm the littlest person. And I remember one encounter where he told me to say something to the owner of the company in front of everybody. And I was like, God, really? But I move in obedience regardless of what. And every time I showed up, God showed off. So don't get stuck in that invisible prison. The doors aren't locked. Fear, is just trying to stop you and convince you that you don't know it. You can't do this. There's too much to learn. How you got another job? How can you do this too? No. Some agents they're not stuck. They're just scared. I was that, okay? And that's a huge difference. Stuck means that path is blocked. Scared means the path is open and you haven't taken your first step, right? The cage door, like the bird that's stuck in a cage, the cage door has been open this entire time, right? And those who are going to convention, I commend you. Those who can't go, I ask that you find an accountability, someone who's going to go so you can keep your ears, right? Keep ear hustle. What's going on in that room? What's happening? Be hungry for that. The only thing between you and the life you're praying about is your decision to move. Whether you go to convention or even if you're at home, what are you going to do during those 3 days? That's going to be productive because, again, our year already started. Fear never disappears before you act. It disappears because you act, right? So I just, I know we're getting down to it, but don't let fear rob you guys. You're here for a reason. You're getting information on a daily basis. You're inspired and you're being transformed to the greatest version who God called you to be. But he already qualified you before you showed up. You are the answered prayer that we've been praying about, right? Just think about Moses. Moses stuttered, right? Moses stuttered, right? He couldn't talk sometimes, but he led a whole nation. Gideon, he hid from his calling, but he became a mighty warrior. And David was a little bit overlooked, right? But he became a man after God's own heart. And Peter denied Jesus of all things, right? And I ain't with him. No, but he built the church early. And Paul persecuted the Christians, but yet he wrote half the New Testament. Now, ask yourself, why not you? You've planted your seed, you're going to till the ground, right? And you're going to continue to grow. So just continue to show up. I just wanted to add to what Hans was sharing this morning. But remember, faith requires movement, fear over faith. I'm going to pass the mic.
I mean,
Can I
indeed.
chime in for a second, Mr.
Yes,
Hans?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So, Miss Princess Map, I don't usually, I'm a man of few words, but this is an interesting conversation. Princess and myself and Miss Michelle have been chatting the past couple of days, but you mentioned the word fear, Princess. And there's a verse in the Bible that in 2 Timothy 1:7 that talks about, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's a resonant verse for me because I believe I have an X on my back. And the enemy of our soul, the devil, works to bring up our past, to try to destroy or annihilate or even compromise our present and our future. He always has a way of bringing up our old dirt. And it reminds us every single day, just to kind of discourage us, because he's a discourager, he's a destroyer. He's an animal that rolls around like a roaring lion, but he doesn't have a fang because our past that's just what it is. We make mistakes every single day, but with the Spirit of God and the power of love and a sound mind, we can overcome our mistakes. All of us have a story to tell. All of us have a past. I certainly have a very well coordinated past that I've made a ton of mistakes in my life that I would just sit back sometimes and say, how stupid, how dumb, how ridiculous of those mistakes that I made. But at the same time, I have a future and a hope, according to the book of Jeremiah. And that is a promise that I hold on to. I mean, this business is not one where I can sit on my behind and expect things to happen for me. And I'm getting to that point. And Princess's Miss Michelle has been really encouraging me with the word and with some inspiration on a daily basis. And I'm working towards a goal for myself and for my future family. And it's really all about diverging myself from my past and working and saying, the devil has a plan, but God has a greater plan for my life. God has an plan that surpasses all understanding. And that's a hope that I hold on to, a future and a hope. And I was on a call yesterday, and the story that Nicholas shared about his struggles and his hope, and that Mr. Samad has been sharing about his story as well. We all have a past, but that doesn't have to define our present and our future. That is a consequential. I was working as a college professor a few years ago, and I would literally, be preparing for my lecture, doing my PowerPoint slides at home, and then get to the lecture podium and think to myself, what an esteemed position to be in. But I had a lot of anxiety, because I was thinking to myself, how can somebody like me with my past be in front of a classroom teaching future clinicians and therapists about how to orchestrate their lives? Who am I to be able to put myself in this position? But God will remind me, you are the person with that voice and that story to tell. You are the person who can tell your story, use your story as an inspiration to help other people overcome their struggles, because we all have it. But we get into a mindset where we think, oh, my problems are bigger than the next person, or my mistakes, or my sinfulness, or my problems are so compounded that if I were to compare myself to the next person, it just doesn't compare. But that's not the case. We all have a story to tell. We all have that dirt that we don't want anybody to find out about. And we try to hide it as much as possible. For some of us, especially politicians and actors and actresses, it comes out through different memes and athletes. But for us, it might come out a different way. But for me, I know I have a past. And I'm not running from my past. I'm embracing and saying, yes, I've made mistakes, but that doesn't have to define my present and my future. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that verse in 2 Timothy 1:7 really defines our look at the perspective that I take. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, a fear of the enemy trying to infiltrate our mind with all the negativity that surrounds us, all the negative behaviors we're engaged in. God has not given us a spirit of fear about the past, but has given us a spirit of power, love, and the sound mind. And I just want to kind of add that to what Princess was sharing about all the great prophets in the Old Testament and New Testament who operated from a place of fear. And that was the reason for their downfall. But God restored them to a place of prominence, such as Moses and Peter and Paul. Paul became the greatest apostle there was. Even though he persecuted the church, he killed Christians. I think he was responsible for killing Stephen. He stoned Stephen to death. He was a murderer and a persecutor. I mean, a murderer that was given a second chance. It became the greatest voice for Christianity, and he became the writer, the author of most of the New Testament. And what a place of prominence that God restored him back to. And that's an inspiration for me. I mean, I'm not a murderer per se. I've never killed a
Come on,
man.
don't you lie now. God don't like us. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I've never taken a
we won't tell nobody. No,
But
thank you, Baba
I've
Tunde. I
things-
thank you,
I've
for sharing that. That is,
I've
I
done
agree.
things that were self-injurious to me. And that's kind of what I wanted to share this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad it touched your spirit. I'm not trying to be churchy, but I'm trying to be churchy. No, just kidding. I'm trying to let y'all know I love the Lord, and He got us all here for a reason. And like he just said, sometimes fear, things in your mind, it's fathoms, it's not real, and it prevents you from moving in your purpose. You landed here because you have purpose. He said, I'm using everything you got, Amanda. I'm using everything you got, Marlene. I'm using everything. And what does that look like? So I encourage us all to get into a quiet space and really just let God download to you because you've already landed. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, it's if you want to keep going, go for it. That's
No,
fine.
no, we got 1 minute, honey. I'm sorry.
No,
Respectfully, we
it's
got one
okay. It's
minute.
okay. You wrap us up. It's fine.
No, you go ahead. You wrap us up. We need to close on your energy.
Oh, okay. Well, can I just tag along with Babatunde and what all you guys are talking about with Isaiah 61? Most people don't quote this part. They quote what Jesus said, but it says, instead of shame and dishonor, you will enjoy a double share of honor and you will possess a double portion of prosperity in your land. So I
Amen.
just want to, like, wherever we have shame, like, I love coming to appointments and being like, oh, girl, I've done it. You name it, I've been there. So don't worry about it. Like that shame, wherever we have shame, God's gonna like make that the place where we get double honor and a double portion of prosperity. So
Amen.
just all those places, guys, all those places where we feel like we could never show that off. I feel like when we choose to be honest, people love honesty and they can relate. When we just allow people to see even some of the dark things that have happened to us, people get and like a kinship with us and then we get the double portion, you know, like we don't deserve it. Let's not go there. But when we choose to show people things that have happened to us that bring shame or should bring shame, I'm not going to live under shame, guys. I'm not. um
Yeah.
but where we have felt dishonor, where we have felt shame, it says that we're going to get double portion of prosperity in the land. So I choose to believe that where those places have been for me, that's where my ability to really reach out is. So there you go.
Thank you. That's amazing that you shared that. That's right. We're about to get double, y'all. Double, 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 right? God sees you. And yes, I appreciate that. I just saw Mary Grace. Are you still in the room? I want before we hang up, I'd love if you wanted to say anything. I think she said,
Hey, hello, Team
hey.
Supreme. Yes, yes. Well, it's always great to pop in here. Honestly, just seeing this group. I mean, every time there's growth, and I mean, someone like a congrats, Mr. Carolina. It's a family affair here. Brittany, and Jean, I love it. See it convention. I mean, I'm watching as in Miss Betty Hall, always, there to be that inspiration and just perseverance. And, um, you know, I think everyone unpacked with Mr. Hans Augustine and Miss Princess Map and what Marilyn just shared. It's our belief. Like, we don't need to sell people products. This company, and I can speak for myself, and of course everyone shared their own testimony. It's like we never knew this is what our vocation will be, because we are listening to certain things as whether it's truth, and we find out it's like this is really a work that everyone needs. And we continue to build bridges. And all I can share is always my testimony. A 20-year-old coming in here, learning about the importance of insurance. Now we have programs like Million Dollar Baby, or I call it $1 billion baby, because why limit? Why, yes, we might have been a Texas company birthed here, but it doesn't mean we're not nationwide or global, right, Beck? I mean, we don't want to ever limit the power of this financial literacy that everyone in the world need to know. And the seed that's planted today, as everyone's just really being scriptural today. And I think it's just our creator speaking to us that he didn't create us to be like living in a status quo. Like, we have so much gifts, and we have to be good stewards of that. It doesn't matter the opinions of others, because they're not the one we're trying to please. I want to continue to just that be that beacon of hope, because so many people are losing hope right now. And we just want to show them that if you're broken, broke can be fixed. If we would have known better, we would have done better. But it's not just knowing, how do we apply it? And so if we come here and sometimes we keep saying, have you bossed up? Have you protected your family? Have you put the mask on first? We say that not because I need another sale. I say it because things happen. Life be lifing, as we said. And if you were on the TNT, I was just very open again. And we don't like to always just, it's not about the negativity. It just reminds me why we're in this industry. Like why we don't want to say I coulda, I shoulda, but we didn't have that urgency. Or we always sometimes could think, what would they think of me? Well, one thing I know, for someone that's delivered many living benefits and death benefits and personally receiving that, we are a hero. We become the hero. And if you haven't yet done that, you borrow our success. You borrow that when Mary Grace was diagnosed stage 4 metastatic, and there's a lot of people that got diagnosed after me and they're no longer here. But I know one thing, I have a mission that, Lord, I haven't talked to enough people. Did I even put enough in with my own family, within my household? No. And so that's why all of us, let's leverage our platform. Let's not be mediocre, because the world will tell us it's impossible. It can't be done. They'll rain on our parade. But until we do it, they're like, wow, okay, you actually did it, because we're the one willing to not take this casually. We're the one we're the chosen ones to take the punches. And when we get down, we get back up, shake it off, because it's another day, another family, that family that maybe closed the door on you, but there's another 3 family that's been waiting for you. And where you been, David? I'm so thankful you're here, rather than the one we're chasing. So I want to tell us, our number one currency is time. And time equal love. And for you that jumped on here, you gave an hour plus already. But like I am too, I'm giving you my time, because if this is my last 11 o'clock, I want to pour it into you, because the seed that's been planted, I might not see in my lifetime. And trust me, every day to me is a gift. I'm already on borrowed time. So I want to pour into whoever's willing to listen, because everyone want to take away from us. And when you're on these calls, people are pouring to you like you can't believe. So let's just continue to keep moving forward. There's so many people that need our help. And I tell you this, you can borrow this. I have 100% closing ratio. I don't care what anyone always want to say. I only recruit the people that want to join. So you don't want to join, I'm not going to recruit you. Don't mess up my record, my RBI. And I will only offer the solution, the products, to the people that see value. But our number one product is our OIC opportunity. So with that, I will see you at convention. It's not too late. If you know people in Dallas, anyone everywhere, just invite. It's up to them to show up, and that might be the decision that will change our life forever. But I'm so proud of this team. I know what we're made of. Let's flex our muscles. Just keep taking that no, because that no will be a yes one of these days. All right. Be blessed.
Yes,
Let's go.
thank
Let's go.
you.
OIC
Thank you, Mary Grace.
Supreme.
Let's drop some ones in the chat. All right, guys, ladies and gents. Oh yeah, Mary Grace says if you come to Texas, go home, or what is it? Go big or stay home.
Yes, go big or go home. See, we're all tuned in. Everyone is here. We're learning from y'all. Y'all are the trendsetters here. We got a system in place. So let's go.
Amen. All
You guys have
right.
an excellent
Well, you
day.
guys, we're gonna end this call. All right, you guys have an amazing day. Is there any announcements, Marlena? Anything that we need to know? What's today? Tuesday? Okay. All
Wealth
right, you guys
Formula
go out.
tonight at 8:30. Tonight is the Wealth Formula at 8:30
Wealth Formula.
EST and then 7:30 CST. And
Yes,
if you haven't
sir.
decided for convention, guys, you still have an opportunity. There's going to be plenty of fruit in the room. You guys have an excellent day, and thank you, Miss Princess Map. Love and respect
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Hans,
All right.
Augustine. Yep. All right. See you guys in the
I'll see you in
field.
Dallas.
All